So, what happens when a #1 New York Times bestseller gets put under the microscope by a whole army of online experts? Well, that's exactly what went down with the book Astor, The Rise and Fall of an American Fortune. And trust me, the debate it kicked off is absolutely fascinating.
And I mean, what a story it promises to be. The book's own summary pitches this epic family saga, one that's totally tangled up with the making of America itself. With a hook like that, you can see why this huge, sweeping story grabbed the attention of millions of readers.
Okay, so first things first, let's get into the story the book actually tells. Because to really get the controversy, we first have to understand why this tale of fortunes and scandals and centuries became such a huge deal in the first place.
I mean, the book lays out this absolutely incredible journey. It all starts with a German immigrant back in the 1780s and follows the family as they become, basically, American royalty in Gilded Age New York. The whole narrative is just packed with drama, from, the most famous death on the Titanic, all the way to a pretty shocking family court battle in 2009. And the authors frame this as more than just a family's life story. It's like a window into America itself. Think about it. The family fortune starts with beaver pelts, a real frontier business. And then it just explodes into this modern real estate empire that literally built huge chunks of New York City. They owned so much of Manhattan, their name was just everywhere.
All right, now let's zoom in on the chapter that really became the flashpoint for this entire debate. The story of John Jacob Astor IV and his fateful trip on the Titanic.
In the book, his death is treated like this huge, pivotal moment. As the richest person on that ship, his death wasn't just some tragedy. It was this dramatic, almost unbelievable twist in the saga of the Astor dynasty.
It's a really compelling story, right? Super memorable. But from a corner of the internet that's known for its deep, deep expertise, a question started to bubble to the surface. Is this incredibly popular story actually true? And this is where our story takes a really interesting turn. Over on the online forum Reddit, in a community called r/Titanic, a group of incredibly dedicated history buffs and amateur experts, and I mean experts, started taking a much closer look at the book's details. And they did not mince words. One super-informed user, Innocuous Imp, flat out called the chapter on the most famous Astor particularly bad, saying it was just filled with errors that a quick search could have fixed. And that really kicked off this detailed, evidence-based critique of the book. The core of their argument really boiled down to this. The book is a fantastic story, but it chooses a smooth narrative over digging into the historical analysis. It tells you what happened, but it gets some key facts wrong and almost never dives into the why. So, what were these errors they were talking about? Let's actually get into the specifics. The critics on Reddit got really detailed, especially with that blockbuster Titanic chapter. Yeah, this table really breaks it down. The book repeats that old myth that Astor was killed by a falling smokestack, but the critics point out that nope, his body was found pretty much intact. The book claims the Astors boarded in Southampton, but the actual records show it was Cherbourg, France. Now, these might sound like small things, but for historians, these details are the building blocks of the truth. And when you get them wrong, you risk warping the whole story. And this right here? This is the perfect example of the main issue. The idea of all the millionaires gathering for a single boat train in London, it makes for a great scene, doesn't it? It feels very cinematic. But the critics argue it's just not what actually happened. The reality was a little messier, a little less convenient for a simple, clean story. So what do we do with all this? Is the book just bad, or is something else going on? This whole debate really gets into a much bigger conversation about how we, as readers, consume history. See, Astor fits perfectly into a genre we call popular history. It's written to be super accessible and engaging for, a huge audience, not just stuffy academics. The main goal is to tell a page-turning story, which, can sometimes mean smoothing over tricky details or even repeating myths that have been around forever just because they're good stories. And what's interesting is, the consensus from these critics isn't that the book is worthless. Actually, far from it. They see it as a fantastic starting point, a great introduction to this unbelievable family for people who don't know anything about them. But they're quick to warn, it's just that, an introduction. So hey, if Astor gets you curious, the good news is there's a whole world of more in-depth stuff out there. The Reddit community actually recommended these more comprehensive biographies that give you a much more detailed look at the family and the whole Gilded Age. And that leaves us with a final thought to kind of chew on. When history becomes a massive bestseller, what's more important? Reaching millions of people and getting them excited about the past, even if there are a few factual slip-ups? Or should perfect, absolute accuracy always be the number one goal, even if it means way fewer people read it? It's a pretty fascinating trade-off when you think about it.